Hey, what's up, guys? This is Dave Duford at Final Expense Agent Mentor, and in today's video, I'm going to talk about why captive agents are more likely to fail than any other kind of agent that's out there. Now, this may be a little bit of a interesting discussion because this particular video is geared towards new agents who are new to insurance in general. Now, it doesn't matter if you are selling term insurance or you're selling mortgage protection or final expense or anything at all. These particular principles, I guess you could say, are going to be applicable to this particular situation. So again, my name is Dave Duford, owner and operator of Final Expense Agent Mentor at feagentmentor.com, where I train final expense agents how to be successful in the final expense business. And what we're going to talk about today are really what I have learned as a producer and trainer over the past 7 years as to why it is absolutely important to be successful as an agent by being an independent agent versus captive or a captive agent. So let me explain what this means if you're brand new to the final expense business or any particular insurance business as it stands. So the definition of a captive agent, generally speaking, is an agent who is married to one particular company and only one company. They sell one product which has its limitations. They're taught to learn that one particular product and go out and sell it to the masses. Whereas an independent agent, generally speaking, represents a variety of different companies and can pick and choose particular companies based on the needs of the client in that particular situation. Now, you may be wondering, well, why is it potentially a bad idea to be captive instead of being independent? Maybe you are just licensed as a new agent, or you've been licensed but you're looking to get into a particular line of selling insurance, and you're wondering, well, why is it such a big deal? You know, I've got this brand name behind me. I've got a system that I'll learn how to sell. And so what I want to talk about here is that, first of all, I've made a series of other videos a minute ago, well, a couple weeks, over the past couple weeks, and it talks about why insurance agents fail. The biggest reasons being not giving enough presentations, not being active enough out there producing or learning a system of success and focusing on one particular product. And this is one of, I believe, the 3 top reasons why agents fail. And I think actually over time, this has been a major issue for me personally, but has lessened over time. I think it is important if you are an agent that can be successful being independent. We'll talk about what that means in a little while, to be independent. But being captive doesn't necessarily you're going to fail. It just means you're going to miss out on so many more opportunities. So let's talk about those opportunities that you will miss out on. There's 2 particular things that you need to be aware of as you get started in this business. Number 1, there's not one product to fit all solutions on the market. Let's take final expense, for example. That's what I do for a living. I sit down with people who are in all sorts of different health shapes. They're healthy, they're not so healthy, they're literally on their deathbeds at times. And if I sell one particular product, and I'm not necessarily dogging on one product, it could be any of them. But if I push that one particular product, given enough presentations, I can tell you that that particular product is not going to be the most suitable in terms of price or coverage for that client. So what happens if you don't adhere to this concept? Well, the reality is that insurance sales is just like many other business. It's more competitive. There's more people alive now, which means there's going to be more people in the business just by default. And you're going to be replaced. And not only are you going to be replaced and lose that income and renewal stream, you're also not going to get the sales opportunities that you may run into that you could have gotten if you were independent. So let me give you a couple examples, really just what I experienced in the field last week writing insurance as an independent agent. So the first thing are health issues. So I ran into a couple of cases last week where I had clients who had COPD, I had clients who had blood thinners, and also had clients who had neurological problems. And knowing my competition, especially the ones who are captive, they would not have taken those policy holders or those clients as first day full coverage, whereas the agents or the carriers that I work with did. So how does that actually all play out? Well, so first of all, by selling them preferred coverage, you maximize your commission. You see, with other captive companies, what you'll find is that their actual payout commission is much lower because all they can offer is what's called a modified plan, which doesn't even cover the client for the first 2 years. So not only are they not getting full coverage, okay, you're putting your client into an inferior product, you're also getting paid half of the commission in many cases, sometimes less, depending on the mode of payment. Some of these captive companies don't even pay full commission if they pay with a direct express card versus a banking account. And so, as the old Chinese proverb says, a death by 1,000 paper cuts. This is how you lose out on revenue and gross profit because the company's terms of how they do business and because you're captive. And there's no way around this. So I would have made, literally in this particular circumstance, hundreds if not thousands of dollars less in combined first-year commission and renewals because I would have not either made the sale, because I would have to try to sell something inferior as far as a 2-year wait versus a full coverage product, and I may have just missed out on the sales. So that's why you got to be mindful of this getting into this business. And again, this is final expense, but this can definitely relate to term insurance sales. Maybe it's somebody with the different levels of depression. Some companies are against that. Some companies are more supportive of it. It's not necessarily exclusive to final expense. It's true. Take disability sales, for example. Some are more comfortable with blue-collar professions versus those who are only wanting white-collar professions. And if you push one product, you're only stuck with that one product. And you'll invariably lose more coverage or sell an inferior product because of that. Built into that, the second reason why it's bad to sell captive as a captive agent is because what you'll find is that your pricing is usually not the most competitive. Take again, in the final expense business, this particular captive company I'm speaking of, as well as pretty much all of the captive companies that sell final expense products, are designed to be a higher price product. Why is that? I don't know. It's not because the underwriting is liberal or because the policies are simplified. That doesn't make any sense because in the independent world, they're all less expensive and they're very liberal, even many times much more liberal than these overpriced captive companies. But the reality is you have to understand the market you're selling to. So in the final expense business, we sell to people who are on a fixed income, retired, or disabled. And if you're walking in there with the highest priced product, you may only be able to offer them half of the coverage that they need to cover their final expenses. And you're going to have to really cajole them into buying from you. And maybe they will, but then you've got another 3 or 6 months that you will have another agent in the door because the client never really was settled with what you sold them. And when I show up and sell them double the coverage for the same price, they'll be a fool not to take it. In fact, probably 7 or 8 out of 10 people that I present that have these captive products buy. And it's not because I'm some sort of final expense grand poobah. I'm not some genius here. It's an obvious advantage to the client to get more coverage for the same price, and in many cases fully cover them, whereas they had a 2-year wait. Again, you can expand this out to any profession or any product. You sell term insurance, and if somebody came in here and said, hey Dave, you can double your term insurance, you can take it from $1 million to $2 million and not pay any more money, I will want to do that. Because I love my family. I want to make sure I leave them with the most death benefit that I can, barring there's some problem with these companies, but in many cases that's just not the case. So this is why being captive literally shortchanges your economic opportunity. You can be a great salesperson, you can sell a lot of people, and you can be successful as a captive agent. I'm totally convinced. In fact, probably save it for another video. Some people are really designed to be captive because many of these organizations are designed to treat you like an employee, to micromanage you, to make sure you're on the Kool-Aid calls every morning at 7 and every night at 8. And look, that's good for people. Some people, not everybody. It's not good for me. And if you're even, designed in that direction to you just be adverse to that kind of, that culture of, multi-level marketing, if you will, then that's not for you and you shouldn't pursue that. Because if you are very good as a successful captive agent, it's crazy how much business that you'll lose out on. Not only just in the sales, but also in the replacement of that business. And that's one thing you'll never be told if you're looking at a captive company. They'll tell you how much money the managers are making, and they do make a hell of a lot of money. They'll show you the cars, they'll show you the fat stacks of cash. It's undeniable that they're making a lot of money. But what they won't tell you is what they keep. In this business, I learned from a manager years ago, it's not what you sell, it's what you keep. Meaning, you can sell a lot of insurance, But if it all drops off because you push too hard, or because you're captive and it's overpriced and there's competition in the area, which there is in your area, there's competition everywhere, and you lose that renewal stream and that first year commission, who cares if you sold 200,000? If you only keep 150 or 125 or 100,000, and your expenses are 50 grand a year, you're not making a lot of money, and you're doing a disservice not just to your clients but also to yourself. If you're that good, you owe it to your clients and you owe it to yourself to expand your breadth of offerings. You don't need a captive company to be successful. A lot of people lean on the idea of a brand to leverage themselves to be successful because they ultimately don't believe in themselves. Brands are just these concepts that give us confidence, and they're useful for sure. But you don't need to stand by, or you don't need to leverage a brand to be successful. One of the real surprising things about this business is that you realize that people don't buy a particular final expense or life insurance brand. They buy you. You know, it's crazy, actually, if you think about it. You know, you'll walk in there not knowing this person from Adam, complete stranger. In 30 minutes, an hour later, you walk out with a completed application, their complete trust, their social security number, their banking information, their personal information. You know more about them than many people know about them. And it's not the company that did that, guys. It's you. It's you. And when you give a captive company, or when you give your allegiance to a company thinking that this is going to substitute your lack of confidence, you're paying a huge price. And that's what really matters the most, is you have so much power as an agent to help people with just the agency and authority of you being a licensed agent, being somebody that can be trusted, because that in itself is a commodity these days in high demand. And if you can convey that, you don't need to lean on something else to prop you up. You are strong and powerful on your own. You don't need this stuff. And that's the wages that are paid by being captive. You sacrifice so much for hopefully this thing replacing maybe an insecurity, which again is understandable, especially starting off. But I can assure you, you don't need it. It's not going to make any difference whatsoever in your capability to thrive and be successful, to constantly help people, to make a good income, to make a six-figure income. You need to believe in yourself, and you need to make sure that you understand the realities of what kind of market we live in. The allegiances, the brands are breaking fast, and what people want are meaningful relationships with people that actually help them solve their problems. You are a brand of yourself, okay? That's a big lesson here. And when you go out and you sell, you're going to sell yourself more than anything else. Many agents will tell you, if you ever deal with them, if you ever interact with an agent, they could literally sell insurance without mentioning the insurance company's name. It's an after effect. It's an afterthought. It doesn't really make a difference to the outcome of the sale, because that agent who understands the power of selling themselves, it doesn't need that. That's what's crazy. It's a power thing that, you know, it's to wield that kind of power is pretty incredible. You think you need these concepts of authority to validate you. You don't. You have enough on your own to be massively successful if you just believe that. That's kind of the thing that we all struggle with at times. I know I certainly have. So in summary, what we are talking about today is how to be successful and not to fail selling insurance. And the way that you do that is by giving yourself options. Now, you need carrier options because it allows you to give you the best solutions for your clients. It allows you to sell more of the presentations that you give, and it does truly allow you to make more money. I mean, there's not a loss that could become out of being an independent agent. The only concern you've got to address as you consider your path as a new insurance agent, whether you're going to go captive or independent, is if you go independent, you got to make sure that you work with somebody who understands the model that you're trying to strive for. Like in the other video I talked about, you've got to become a master of one particular product line. I think that's the best method and process to get involved in selling final expense or any insurance product. But you got to learn from somebody who's actually done it. And make sure that you find somebody that actually has not somebody who's coming to this business and believes in the multi-level marketing model, that hasn't even sold a policy, but they want to recruit you in every single person you've breathed in the direction of over the past year. That's not what you want. It's almost a guarantee of a failure. Maybe I'll talk about that in the next video. Actually, that's a good topic. So, be independent. Find somebody you can work with to maximize your chances of success. Nobody can tell you or guarantee your success, but you have to take and leverage every advantage that you get for every particular edge that you can come across. So I want to thank you so much for joining, guys. If you have any comments, and that's a question I'll ask you guys, do you think it's better to be independent versus captive? If you're independent, what do you think are the top 3 reasons and powerful points to be independent? If you're captive, I'd love to hear your comments too. Why do you think captivity is good for you, and what kind of value have you had? You can be successful with both models. I just tend to think that, based on my experience, the ones that are independent see the longer term success and actually make a career out of this. Dave Duford, Final Expense Agent Mentor at feagentmentor.com, where we help insurance agents become successful final expense agents. Check me out. I've got a book. You're welcome to check out the description below for links on my top-selling book on final expense. You can also join my newsletter for a bunch of free sales training and prospecting tips for final expense and insurance agents. And I will see you next time. You guys have a great and profitable week. See ya.